So welcome to Tour the Moon, which is a new nationwide festival that is going to tour all around the UK in the summer 2022 and is currently offering more than 850 creative grants to anyone between the age of 18 to 25. So we are here to celebrate that. And also I'm, very excited to have an event that is going to be co-hosted by the University of the Underground, which is a free, pluralistic and transnational charity and educative platform, and Union of Justice, who is going to join us in a second as well, who is led by Majid. And as it turns out, Majid and I are both the director of the University of the Underground, Union of Justice and Tour the Moon. We all connected, basically. So having said that, full disclosure, I just wanted to share with you this opportunity that we have available because we are hoping that you will be taking over. So this session that we're going to speak about just now is called How to Get Funded. And part of how to get funded is actually to find the place where there is money. And in this occasion, this festival has got money available to make projects, such as making an immersive cinema event for 25K to make an actual sync in terms of Rocky Horror Picture Show and what that might look like. You can make a short film for £3,000 that is going to appear on giant trucks, fully sustainable truck. Just to tell you as well, we're really excited because we have a fully electric festival going on here. We're also able to actually get you to experiment and can actually develop a new artificial intelligence, and actually enter a conversation with the moon if you wanted to be a part of a creative network of digital maker. Through this specific grant here. You can also perform, you can write a short play, you can DJ, you can be a part of Moon Press, where you are able every single moon to claim your love for the moon, but also enter a conversation with non-human species. So there is different grants as well available for writers, for creative directors, chief author, and so forth, talks, music, sport, convoy, anyway, lots to look at, and this is available on there. So I forgot to say that we are fully captioned. So if I'm not making sense because of this very strong French accent, I actually wonder whether or not the AI can recognize this French accent or not, but you can actually look and set it up on your own Zoom to have live caption going on. I am also, for those of you that are visually impaired, just to let you know what I look like, although who really wants to see what I look like, I kind of wonder, but having said this, today, I have a blob. Do we say that? I'm a brunette. I have a lot of makeup on, actually, believe it or not. I have a bright red lipstick, and I have a jumper that is Christmas before Christmas. And meanwhile, I'm gonna also ask my amazing guests, Helena Whittingham and Akash Barania, to introduce themselves as well. If you want to just tell us what you look like, that would be amazing.
Hi, I'm Helena. For accessibility, I have long brown hair. I'm wearing a black top, gold hoop earrings, and red lipstick.
Thank you, Helena.
Yeah.
I am aaks. I'm in some sort of baby blue ski suit type thing, with some blue lines on my face and a mop. What did you call it?
Blob. Bob.
That's black. Bob, it's not a bob. I don't know what it is.
There goes. There goes.
Can I ask you all to also put your microphone off, please? Otherwise, this is going to be like completely not manageable. If you're not speaking in this session, please just just mute yourself. Akash, you were telling us we were in the midst of this amazing description you were giving of yourself. Is that?
That's it. I've got, some blue sunglasses, facial hair. Yeah, that's me.
So this is it, everyone. We've done the introduction and we are delighted and thrilled to answer the question that you all ask yourself on a daily basis. how do I get funded? I mean, how do we get funded? How do I get my work funded? As in not me, I, Nelly, but like I, you, right? And so we have here, well, you know, a rock star team to run us through the process of doing this. So Akash, I'm going to run through your bio now. This is a moment that I usually find very uncomfortable when someone reads the bios, but anyway, this is coming. So Akash, you are a student, an educator, a cultural producer, but you're also a co-creator of Misery, a playful mental health community led by and for queer, trans, intersex people of color with lived experience of mental health problem, madness, addiction, disability, trauma, and neurodivergence. They started their career as an LGBTQ youth worker, but over the last year, their work has been focused on collaborating with QT BIPOC artists and collective to redistribute wealth and resources, which is actually what we're trying to do as well with Tour the Moon, and build resilience to sustain grassroots queer, disabled-led, and BIPOC collective. And Akash, you also have been very much involved with the Arts Council England, where you've been in the past in charge of relationship. You were their relationship manager for diversity. So you're going to be able to tell us all about funding application, which is fantastic to have you there. Thank you so much for your time. Helena Whittingham, here you go, your time now. Funded in 2019 by Helena Whittingham. Lover Management Limited is a London-based bespoke management company for a creative agency specializing in all things content. You are currently working with a deserved group of guests, cultural commentator, content creator, DJ, producer, and other creative. They're all pretty amazing, between Pussy Palace, Club Quarantine, Becky Tong, The White Pube, so many of them, and they certainly don't fit the bill, but they still manage to get funded. So you two are the perfect panel to tell us how on earth do we get our work funded. Who is taking the lead on that? And you can ask any question in the chat section, everyone, and we will be sending you in breakout session in a second. Go ahead.
Hi, maybe I'll start. So thank you so much for introducing me. I'm also a writer, model, and I run this talent management company / creative agency, Lover Management Limited. A lot of my work is centered around pairing brands with talent, or getting my talent funded in some sort of way, creating interesting creative outputs, things like that. We've worked with brands such as Nando's, Wolf and Badger, Unbound, London Fashion Week, Good Hood, Field, Bumble, and record labels like Atlantic, Polydor, Dirty Hit, Domino, it's all on the website. there's a lot. Before I started in my current industry for 3 years, I had 6 years working in galleries, and all of the things that I've done, I've needed funding for in various ways. The key points that I'm saying today will be around local grants, brand collaborations, and possibly small business loans, because that's how I have gained funding for various things. So with number one, looking at local grants, I got funding for, when I was working at Vitrine Gallery, for a local grant. It was called Bermondsey Fund or something, because I was like a young creative. Ended up doing this exhibition. I've also had local grant funding when I was in Leeds. So there was these great spaces that you could do things. It was called E Street Arts, and you paid like 35 quid to be able to use any of their spaces, but there was also funding opportunities within those organizations. And my client at the moment, Club Quarantine, who was a Zoom party that started in the pandemic and is now transitioning into real life, it's based in Toronto, and we're working on getting them local funding as a body that's based in Toronto. The really great thing I think about looking at local grants is that you don't always have to prove what you've spent it on, like in things like Arts Council funding. There's also things that are local but online, so it doesn't have to be completely based with wherever you are. but I will say a lot of mine I've found from people sharing stuff on socials. So that's maybe a practical thing. Like you can look at Instagram and maybe see where other people have been getting things. I'm happy to compile a bit of a personal list here. And if you want me to do that, maybe pop that in the chat and we can, I'm happy to do that afterwards. It's like a bit of a breakout thing. The second thing was small business loan. So as a limited company, I got a small business loan for like 3K, and I think that's a good thing to do. You have to be quite practical about what you want it for. So like software, hardware, something like that. You have it within the first 2 years of your company, and then you pay it back every month. In hindsight, I wish I'd asked for more, but I didn't really know what I was asking for. So again, that's something that I can give advice with if anybody wants to chat about that. And then my current expertise, I guess, is brand collaborations. So the main thing I would say about brand collaborations is you're doing an exchange. So, you know, are you trying to grow your following? Is it a monetary exchange? Is it a giveaway? You have to kind of think about what is the best approach that will be and what is the outcome. So the way that I would approach this is compile a list of brands that make sense for your event, company, whatever. For example, I have my client Beam Me Up Soft Boy, who is like makes memes, and we paired them with Unbound, which was a sex toy company. And it really made sense because the audience really love, like it has to be something that like makes sense to that audience. If it is a brand collaboration, you've maybe all seen influencers that do these things all the time that are like, oh, I'm sponsoring this, I'm being sponsored by this, and it's boring and it gives you short time leads and it puts off your audiences. So I really believe in trying to find the correct brand for you to help you exist and make it long-term if possible. So when we did this thing with Unbound, we started working on a retainer basis because it was so well received. You also don't need to have a huge following. I think that is a pretty big misconception. Lots of brands like Carhartt or like smaller, they sponsor smaller things all the time. It just has to make sense. And lots of drink brands will always sponsor events. You just need to approach them no matter how big or small. Having a bigger following means that you're going to get more capital, or but it doesn't mean everything. You can approach brands at any time, basically. And number two with the approach is, what can you offer the brand? So is it, you're putting the logo on your posters, maybe you can, the demographic of your audience, and they're trying to target that demographic, i.e. with To The Moon it's 18 to 24, and if your audience is like involved in that, you just need to know what it is that you can offer brands, and then there is that exchange there. And again, I can give any advice here, so please DM me on Lover Management Instagram, or email me at helena@lovermanagement. And of course, just apply to To The Moon. is a really great place to get funding. So I think that's it for my presentation for now. I'm happy to have any Q&As as well.
Thank you so much, Helena. And we're gonna get Akash actually to like go right into it, and then we will of course you can start asking any question in the chat box in the meantime to Helena, and we're gonna pick it up. It's gonna be lively, don't worry, as we go along. Yeah, I was gonna say, is that a bird, but no, it's a cat, so clearly I need my glasses. Here we go. Okay. Akash, do you want to tell us about your experience of getting funded? So, from, your specific organizations that you run, but also as someone that has been working at the Art Council, how do you, what do you recommend people?
Yeah, so I love this to be as interactive as possible. So start putting your questions in and then we can fire off each other. I'll talk a little bit about Misery, about Arts Council, but I also work with other organizations to try and help them get funding. I had this question how to get funding, you know, a few years ago, and I guess for a long while now, and just trying to see myself as a cog in this wider machine. There's so much resource out there, and how does it just get to the things that we need and not just bullshit mediocrity? And so how to tap into this like juice that is out there has been like a question of mine that I'm trying to solve and then share. So for Misery, we can talk about Misery, we can talk about Arts Council. Let's talk about funders. Similar to brands that like Helena was talking about, I don't know too much about that, but funders have a vision, right? So if you're going to the Arts Council or to other trusts, funds, organizations, they usually have a strategy, they usually have a vision, they have some goals that they're trying to achieve. And actually, you out here, what I say to people is there's somebody getting paid a full-time job to do what you're doing or trying to make what you're doing out in the world happen. You just need to find that person, right? And finding that person or those people is the difficult part of how to get funded. And that's through the networking and showing up to things like this and just putting those tentacles out there and feelers, and you'll find those people. But it's looking for those people. So whether that you're doing a community group to build literacy for some migrant women, well, there'll be a charity somewhere that's trying to do that, or the local authority in that area is trying to do that. Or you're really interested in astrology and the moon, and well, there's a festival here that's all about the moon. You know, you got to find like what you want to put out into the world, or what you're already putting out into the world. Somebody else is trying to make that happen too, with the resource, and it's doing that connection. So with the Arts Council, we have a 10-year strategy. It's called Let's Create. So the first thing I'll do with any funder, go on their website, read their shit, read up about them. What are they into? What do they want? What do they want to see in the world? Right? What have they funded before? Funding and asking for funding is all about storytelling, right? And as artists and creatives, we know how to express and we know how to communicate. And sometimes it's just different ways, and it's just different practice, or it's a different way in which we're communicating and telling a story. And then we've got tight word counts. I don't use Twitter, and I like hate word count, but funding applications, I mean, depending on the funder, some funders are a lot more flexible, and that's great. Where you can chat, where they want to get to know you, where you can send a video. Some funders have got tight questions, tight word count, want to see a budget. However, I like to see that as an opportunity. So you've only got 1,500 characters to write something in. That means you need to figure out how to distill your concept and your idea into what we could call an elevator pitch, or like a tweet, right? How can you get what this thing you're trying to do, synthesize it, distill it. And in that process of trying to distill, use that as an opportunity to develop what you're doing, get to know it better, get to know the essence of what you're really trying to do. Because otherwise, if you don't get the funding, it feels like a waste of time. So use that funding process, and we will get the funding. If you what you're doing is good and there's money out there, you will get the funding. It's just time that you're not getting paid for, which is long. And you've got to try and pay the bills, and that's long. But this is sort of the system. So we're trying to figure out how to hack it. So yeah, I think there's someone's mic on, somebody asking a question. I'll just carry on. I don't know. So go to the funder's website, read their strategy. For Arts Council is Let's Create. They have specific outcomes. So now you want to release an EP, or you want to do a public installation project, or you want to do this. How does that fit into this? So I'm not telling you to lie to your funder and just like make it up. And this is also kind of the problem with, I mean, the arts world and funding, whereas communities or charities or people often tailor their project to meet what the funder wants. And I think that can often stop organic creative expression that is like organically happening in the world, because people are trying to shift it for the resource. And so I encourage you not to do that, but also you need to do that a little bit. You need to mold what you're saying and doing to meet that funder, but don't change what you are, right? So that's all about storytelling. You need to tell people what they want to hear, but don't lie. So yeah, that's part one. Sort of three for the Arts Council grant. I can break that down, and there's a new for National Lottery project grants. That's new. They're sort of split into 4 sections. So one is about telling us about your track record and your idea. I like to think of this like as somebody, again, it's different for different funders, but for someone like the Arts Council, for major funders that are getting lots of applications, or I'm imagining for brands where you're getting lots of emails, people are wanting you all the time, you need to grab people's attention and you need to get them excited, and you need to spark their interest. So if I've got if I've got a panel next week and I've got 100 applications to read, the amount of time that I can spend per application that I've got is kind of like a GCSE examiner that's getting paid £4 per exam. They're gonna just like speed through that shit unless there's something in there that just gets them captivated. And then I'm like, oh, this is exciting. I'm gonna Google you some more, right? What are you doing to get people captivated in that first bit of your submission, which as artists and creatives, we know how to entrance people and captivate people. So it's that same method into your funding application. Get people wanting to know more, wanting to ask for more. I'll leave you with 3 things, and then I want to know your questions. And like how to make it happen.
Important to say as well with that part that you want to captivate, but you don't want to alienate either, because I think another thing that I find as someone that has been both on 2 sides of the story, on a funder side and on someone that applied, you don't want to start writing something that is just so far off, like a piece of poetry, for example.
Exactly.
Because you cannot expect the person that is reading your thing that, like the question is, what has been your work so far? You should respond to that question. You should really tell us what you have done so far, like literally. And then, yes, you can capture us, but you still want to answer that question, because sometimes, you get too, like people get too like abstract. And I used to go really abstract and I never got funded until I started to actually just answer the question, what have you done? What are you going to do about it? Don't use big words. Just say what you're going to do,
Exactly this. So now imagine, so for the Arts Council, I sit in the music team, or I have people have different specialities, right? So I know about X, Y, and Z, but that panel maker might not know about this niche thing that you're into, right? So if we're talking about astrology and the moon, and you want to do a performance piece about Venus, and you've been really inspired by Venus retrograde, and you're going really deep and you're telling us about divine feminine energies, beautiful. Someone might go off into that world. I actually don't care. What I say to people, I don't give the fuck about what's on your mood board and the color scheme. What the color is going to be on your wall. I need to know the practicalities as a funder. What's actually happening? Who's coming? Is it going to be 10 DJs on this night with 6 artists doing 20-minute sets? Right? Like, what's the actual thing? Where is my money actually going? Because if I don't know about your world, then it's too much. Acronyms as well. Like, it's name dropping stuff. Sometimes it's helpful, but if you're going to name drop and you want to reference these things, you need to know that that person knows what you're talking about. Because if they don't, then exactly what you've just said is alienating, and then it just goes over people's heads. And then if you haven't triggered those buttons, that person isn't going to Google to find out what that thing means. So yeah, when it starts getting, which is beautiful, the poetry, and then like as creatives, we have, and when you're passionate about stuff, there's so many layers to what you're trying to say. I don't really care. As the funder, I don't care about that. If my goal is to get this money out, to get people to do X, Y, and Z, that's why I care about. How are you meeting that? So captivate, but do not alienate. Some people, right? If you find a really rich, wealthy benefactor, and you're charming them, they might love up all that passion, right? They're hard to find. And I want to find some more of these sugar daddy, sugar mamas that would just want to fund my existence. That's another conversation, right? For funders, they've got those practical things out there. So the first step 1 is ask for help, right? And you're here, you're trying to figure out how to get help, ask for help. And I know for myself, it took me a long time to ask for help. Ask people, hey, I want to do this thing, I need money. How can I make it happen? Everyone you meet, obviously not everyone you meet, but actually everyone you meet. And someone somewhere will be able to connect you with something. Ask for help.
Isha has a question actually. Do you want to pop up?
Yeah, I have a question. And my question is, what's your thought on written applications and recorded applications? And also, does that depend on the formality of the funder?
Yeah, I think it depends on the funder. Some funders won't accept other forms. And actually, I've worked with other funders that have put on vocal and video applications, and they've not even received that many. For me, as an individual, as a panelist, I would love that because that's what I'm interested in. But then that's not everyone. Like, I'm interested in getting to know the essence of a being and a person, and you can, if I can chat to you and meet you, but it's also not practical. So sometimes it depends on the application form as well. If they really want you to get some practical bits across there, I would make sure that you've written it down and you've made sure you've captured all of that. And then if you are comfortable and confident expressing yourself in this way, I would do that. But to be honest, I don't like myself on camera. I'm even anxious about being here in front of all of you, knowing this is going on YouTube. I just not even trying to think about that, and that you're watching me, you know. So that brings up a certain anxiety where sometimes there's
You're gonna be a hit. You're gonna be a massive hit on YouTube.
I don't want to be a massive hit on YouTube, you know. So sometimes being able to write allows you that bit of like, not keyboard warrior confidence, but a little bit of that you can tap into something, that writing, that maybe. But if you're able to do that and actually get comfortable and get someone to record you, be with people that bring out that like essence of you, then yeah. Paul Hamlin Foundation, they have it's called Innovation Fund, and it's for up to £10,000, and you can submit, I think, up to a 2-minute video, and they just want people at ideation stage. Like, tell us your idea, and we're going to give you £10,000 to really just like ideate it, and they want videos. So that sort of fun, they really want to just find people where they're at, and they've got that, and so you send them a video and you like entice them. That doesn't mean it needs to be the most like glamorous, edited, beautifully pristine video. That it's not about that. It's about that relationship building. So my job at the Arts Council is relationship manager, and it's about relationships.
So there is many questions popping into the chat box. So there is one by Young Pei who is asking, usually funding application asking you to develop the financial structure of your project. Are you there, Young Pei? Do you want to ask your question directly?
Okay, I'm here. It's really late here, so sorry.
Tell us.
Yeah, it's sometime when I was writing for project for the application, and I often find it difficult to know, especially when the project is in the very beginning of the stage. So I want to know, how do you guys like structure your financial plan or your budget per se when you want to write a funding for your project?
So I think like Helena mentioned something like interesting. Certain funders don't care. They don't want to see all of those receipts. And certain funders do. So like for Arts Council, because you're competing against other applications on your pack. So those that are more developed and ready to go, even if you're still at ideation, if something's ready to go, if I give you this money, it's going to happen next week. That makes it more competitive of an application just because I can see it. If you're still at ideation stage, then I would suggest going either for grants that support that, or you flip it and you come in for an R&D application where you say, I need some money to ideate and figure this stuff out. I don't know, what would you say?
Yeah, on top of that, if it is an ideation stage, just give it as long as time lead as possible, like that before you're going to apply for anything, or that like you can't be like, I've got this idea and I need funding yesterday, you know, like if it's something that has a longer time lead, especially for brands, and I'm sure it's the same with funding bodies, like they need a long time lead is always like more desirable.
Okay, I see. So basically you're saying that figure out the funding's purpose. Is that what you mean?
And your project, right? So like that time lead piece there. So if you've got this idea, and you want this funding and you haven't figured out the budget, what I would do is go and, so my first one is ask for help. The second one is be annoying. Every funder, like their email is somewhere out there, and like, I'll give you my email, my Arts Council email afterwards. And it's like, it's a lot to have like all these people wanting your time, but then be annoying and just like you nag someone, you email someone will find 10 minutes of your time and chat to somebody at that funding body. So after this, all of you are going to be hitting up Tour de Moon and saying, how do I get this thing, right? And be annoying, get in their faces and get that time, because that person that's eager and persistent, like I want to help everyone, but just my time is like limited. But if I've got 3 emails from you in my inbox and it's right there, then I'm like, okay, let me just like respond to this person. So be annoying. And yeah, funders obviously don't want to tell people that, or rich people, be annoying. If you really want to make this happen, be annoying. Find that person, that relationship manager or that person at that funder and say, this is what I want to do. I'm still figuring stuff out. They'll be able to advise you. And during that time, you're ideating and things are ticking, right? And you're figuring out that financial structure. And then the other part was ask for help. Find people that have done similar things to you and ask them, how much did this cost?
Okay.
The White Pew have a funding library of a bunch of applications. You can go through that and see what different projects have happened and what was that budget, right? You can.
I was just about to say that they're very transparent, the White Pew. So definitely go and have a look on their page.
Super. I see. So basically saying, finding something that has been done similarly, and then to look at how they structure their financial plan, and then kind of just guessing it pretty much.
We're not guessing it. Instagram that person, DM them,
Okay.
tweet. Tell me what you did. How much did you pay your DJs? How much did you pay? Please help me. Be annoying.
All right, got it. Thank you.
Be needy. Okay,
yes.
What do we have?
All right, thank you so much.
We have some more questions. I would drop you the White Pub. Do you have the link actually, Helena, of the White Pub archive? Just so we can drop it in the chat, maybe. There is a question from Bianca Chick. Do you want to pop in our screen and ask your question, Bianca?
Yes, hello. Hi. I was wondering that many funds are asking for co-financing. So I was wondering if you have any suggestions. Because it seems always difficult also to find the co-financing before applying. So how should I, what do you think?
That's an interesting one. I don't know if this is fully going to answer your question, but with brands, sometimes they do match funding. So we're actually working on something at the moment, working with a sex toy company that wants to work with the party, like community sex party. So basically, whatever the party is raising, the sex toy company I'm working with is going to match fund that. And that also happened with Via Gogo, I think it's called, with Swarm, which is the sex worker hive. So I guess I would maybe say, like, look at brands and say, like, oh, we can raise this much and can you like match fund it? But I don't know if that's really, I don't know if that answers your question.
It just seems like sometimes also the choice of finding a co-financer seems a bit, difficult because, you're asking for money, but then you need to ask another person for money. So it seems as you need to have 2 applications sort of thing.
So I would check, depending on certain funders. So for example, at Arts Council, we waived the requirement for 10% match funding over COVID because we recognized there wasn't much money out there. When you put in an application, you tell us about, so the first thing about match and co-financing, as a funder, if I see other people are putting money into it, then that makes me think, oh, this must be a good idea because somebody else is giving money to it, right? So that's the level of competitiveness. So depending on the fund and the requirements, figure out why they're wanting it, and then you can show it sometimes in different ways. So some of it could be your private investment. If you're paying for rent, if you're paying for your studio rent, for example, that's money that you're putting into this project. If you have a Zoom subscription account that you're paying yearly, that's money that's being put into this project. If you have public liability insurance as an artist, that's money. This is all financing that you're already resourcing. Figure that stuff out. And the next part is support in kind. Is somebody giving you their rehearsal space for free, or value that up, cost that up? You know, and this is other ways you can build up that sort of co-financing part. It is difficult, but then this is why I ask for help and find other people, right, that are interested in this. And it's long. Sometimes things can happen very quickly and speedable, but depending on the funder. And so what I would do sometimes is, if you're co-financing, can also work as if, are you ticketing something, right? So it can be income that's being shown through earned income later on in the life cycle of the project. You give me 10K now, I'm going to put on this event and I'm going to make 5K, right? And this is
this is it. We went into the frozen moment. Are you back? No, Helena, you just dropped meanwhile into the Zoom some research that you've done into existing, like funding that you have researched as well. So if you want to look into the chat, everyone, you have some recommendation from Helena.
There was, so the White Cube, who I work with and manage, have created a funding library. They're very, very transparent. If they ever get any funding, like, it's on there. And that was, the Bermondsey Square was just a small fund that I got when I was working at Vitrine Gallery, but that's maybe more like something that's practical. There was a question.
When applying, we have more from Luis. No, actually, Luis, we just replied your question. Actually, we just dropped it into the chat. How far will you get with a project before seeking funding? That's Fred.
I think that's maybe similar.
Already answered.
What we said, but as long as a time lead as possible is always really desirable, especially if it's a new project. But if you've started a podcast yourself, for example, and you're like, oh, I've started doing this thing, and you can show it practically, it can have a shorter time lead. So,
and we have a question from Cross Lucid. Who is that? Cross Lucid. Do you want to ask your question about funding?
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. I'm Silvana from Coslucid. We are currently working on a film that's partially a film, a game created together with AI. And it's quite of a complex hybrid format. And mostly you have fundings that are really going towards one medium or one direction. And my question is, if you ever encountered or if you have experience in fundings that also cover hybrid formats.
I mean, can I just say we are currently putting together an entire festival that is a free festival that basically is available currently. There is application now open until the 6th of January. And this is exactly the kind of project that we are interested in. Everything that is pushing boundaries of disciplines as we know them, everything that is alien in his genre, his aesthetics.
But it's only up to 25, right?
Yeah. 18 to 25, that is the same. Yeah. True, it's true. There is a limitation.
25 plus, unfortunately.
Okay, so who else would be there then? Do you have any idea for this specific project, like alternative formats? Have you been looking into digital art museum, like Next Museum in Holland, or like museum that, because there is a lot of museum now that are very much dedicated to like new media culture. So like, I'm just thinking this is my first go-to place would be to actually like identify museum.
Yeah, I mean, we talked to Bogomir from Next Museum, but they are not necessarily having fundings. They have platform or possibilities of maybe exhibiting projects, which I think it's when you already have a project, it's relatively easy, I would say. But if you are in the development stage, yeah, it's quite difficult, because even if you go for film funding, they are very, very classical in that way. If you go for games, they're very classical in that way. But to find something for hybrid formats, which are more and more upcoming, especially with all the kind of metaverse 3D and all the kind of different projects,
can I ask?
Quite needed.
Did you look into film festival like CPH Docs, Sheffield Dog Fest? They are very much looking into alternative and hybrid formats, especially documentary at the moment. is having a very beautiful revival of like everything mixed up, whether it's game and, you know, so I would really highly recommend you to start diving into actually film festival, true fairs. There is a lot of, let me just write them down. I will put them in the chat for you, but you should definitely look them up because they are welcoming alternative formats.
Thank you.
And maybe brands also, maybe there is a brand that might make sense to do like a certain amount of, that can fund like X, I don't know, fund the filming part of it or something, you know.
I wonder where is Akash gone? Are you back?
They're back, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm just trying to not make my laptop.
No, we want you to be a hit. We want you to be the mega hit of YouTube. So where were we? Because we never got to your second point. So your first point was about being simple, not alienated. Second point, we spoke about budget. We went on a tangent. Can we speak about guideline? Can we give them a bit of an insight on guidelines and following guidelines? Because that's one as well that. Unfortunately, I'm not about following guidelines in general, but on funding application, I just want to make that clear to everyone. You have to be like a good soldier.
Right. So like break all the rules in life, but also as this is my day job, I just want things to be easy for me, and you make it easier for that person, then you take the marks. But also the guidelines that the person that's maybe giving your money has to be accountable to somebody else, right? So they're precious about their job. So if there's someone that's like a bit of a follows the rules all the time, if you haven't followed the rules or there's something out of place, they don't want to risk their job or their livelihood, right? So read those guidelines, stick to them, ask for help if you don't know how to do it, find somebody else that's applied before if you don't know how to do it, break it down. And if it doesn't make sense and it's inaccessible to you, then call these people up and tell them, your thing isn't inaccessible for me, please help me. Some organizations have what is called access funds. So if you have neurodivergence, disability, or certain access needs, they can give you some money up front to help you navigate their application process.
I think we have another question here from Declan. When applying for funding, do you counter in paying yourself for the work time? Or yes, I would say 1,000,000%. So if I'm working with a brand, for example, and there's like 3K, and then we take the agency fee off that, and then I'm paying my talent, there needs to be money that's going straight to the talent, you know, that, and then it's going to whatever the thing is as well. It needs to be always have it, yeah, it will. And if I was doing any funding application, for example, the White Pube podcast, we're trying to get that funded at the moment, and it's like we need to be paying the White Pube as well as the guests and everybody else. So yes, absolutely.
So for the Arts Council, we believe in art, and so many artists that come through don't pay themselves, and we don't fund the application. One, because this is not sustainable. Two, it's not fair, right? It's not ethical. So however, certain community funders that are very small and are doing charitable work, if you're paying yourself your full day rate of £200 a day, the project doesn't work, and that's not what they're interested in. But depending on the funder, but also, yes, pay yourselves, pay yourselves and pay yourselves well, and like resource your work. Don't take the piss and extract from your community. But if there's wealth there, like figure out how to make this sustainable. And like as an investor, in terms of like financial and business investment, if you're not paying yourself, this thing isn't sustainable. This thing can't happen long term, right? So if I want to fund this, I want to see that this thing is actually sustainable and can happen again and grow. And if you're not paying yourself, then unless you figured out a beautiful life model where you're able to do this work for free, great. Or you've got a trust or inheritance, great. But I imagine that's not why you're here, because if you had those millions in the bank, you wouldn't be asking this question. So pay yourself. And if you're not sure how much to pay yourself, at least for the Arts Council, we have a bunch of fair pay guidelines. So the Artists Network, the Musicians Union, and they have different fair pay guidelines that can tell you roughly, depending on what scale you're at in your career and what you're doing, always at least like the local living wage in the area that you're in, and pay everybody that. But also we understand sometimes it's not possible, right? All your like sustaining it in a different way. So you're releasing an album and your mate's going to do the graphic design for it for 50 quid and you need to do that. Then explain that. We have a text box in the Arts Council application about fair pay and how you've worked out your costs. Tell us in that bit, like, I'm paying everybody, but my mate's going to do this thing and they're interested in doing this thing. And that's the only way to make this happen. And they're happy with it.
You have a question from Ahmed as well. Sorry, Ahmed.
I was also just going to say that at the end of that, the white people also have a list of everything, every time they've ever been paid. So I'll pop that into the chat as well, just so that like they're just transparent about money that they get.
So Ahmed cannot speak right now, so I'm going to read this question. So I want to ask you something. I am a visual artist just finishing my BFA, but usually I feel like my work is in the experimental stage because I'm using different material, never stuck to one. I don't know, but I'm always got this feeling if I want to get funding, I have to have a strong finished project with one medium, and I feel like my work is not suitable for any funding application right now, or I'm not still part of this system. How do we respond to that question?
What I would say to you is maybe certain funders might be interested in that because, like I said, certain funders that want people at this, they want to fund you at this space. Most funders aren't doing that just because of the competition out there. It's just easier to fund people that are ready to go. So what I would say to you is, as an artist, I don't know too much about like, I know lots of like talent development schemes about in music, and there's other stuff out there. You can find like NTS, for example, have a work in progress program, whereas an artist you can go, or Sound UK have something called Sound Generator, or Brownswood have something called Future Bubblers. So you can go as an emerging artist at ideation stage and they'll give you a bursary, they'll give you some mentorship, artist residencies. So I would find something like this that can help you maybe get from where you're at to then do some R&D, like research and development, some like figuring stuff out. So find those opportunities that's maybe not a funding application, but an arts organization or an institution or a festival that can allow you to go and experiment or develop your work a bit more.
There is another question as well in the chat, and Isha has got another question as well for us. So we have a question from Gwen Delune. Do you want to ask your question, Gwen?
I don't really have a question. I just like feel really, I don't really get, I've never applied for funding before. I worked in like on the cabaret scene for a while when I was in London, and then I did street performance, and I live in Swansea now, and I'm interested in starting like a menstrual cult because I've been part of like a menstrual performance art group before, and that was led by my kind of like matriarchal leader, who is she's like a matriarchal icon in my life, and she's kind of like, she's a performance artist called Marissa Karneski. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just a bit like not sure, because I can't lie to you, like I was actually gonna say that I was 25, but I feel like you would find out that I'm 30, so so I have to like, I don't know if maybe I'm stupid for saying that, I'm not sure.
No, but I mean, when there is also a point where, you know, like sometimes when like we all deserve a chance to, so when you're 18, like not that, you know, you don't deserve a chance because you're post 25 or whatever, but I think sometimes also funders have got some limits because they kind of like they have a limited funding, so you have to decide, but there is other funding available as well. So if you're looking at Unbox, there is other commissions that are actually supporting, you know, post 25, and like there is more, you know, more opportunities to actually like make money to build new work, you know. So there is, you know, if you want to email us, we can also guide you into other commissions that also have funding available for, you know, people that are above, you know, the 18-25.
Yeah, I really like that, because there are people that I am close with who are within that age, you know, that bracket or whatever, who I would like to work with, who I do kind of like streams of consciousness with, and do musical things with. That is not involves technology so far. It's just been like a cappella stuff. But yeah, there's like potential for me to do stuff within this with them, because they're called like their pseudonym is Wolf, and my name is Gwendolyn, so which is like of moon in French
That
language.
sounds like a good start for this festival, definitely. Email us, definitely.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I mean, I think definitely maybe looking at other festivals as well. I can compile a bit of a list that of things that I'm thinking about, but it feels very festival to me, the stuff that you're talking about. So let me have a think on that, and I'll get back to you.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
And do we have any more questions before we go and we discover some new people in breakout session? So this is the new special at the University of the Underground. I literally like let you go, like in breakout room.
Can I?
Isham, yes, go, Natalia, yes, tell us.
I wanted to ask if you have any advice for people based outside of the UK, or people like funding that is international. Like I'm from Brazil and I was living in London for a bit, but now I don't have a visa there anymore and I left. So do you have advice for people who live outside of these borders? Because I feel like a lot of times the funding in the UK is only for the UK.
Yes, definitely just try and look locally. So one of my clients lives in Toronto and we're working on some Toronto-based funding at the moment. There is someone that I can connect you to, this artist in Brazil. So yeah, maybe message me personally. But yeah, I would say try and just look locally as well. But yeah, I don't think I know any international ones personally.
I mean, we do have a good alumni group at the University of the Underground coming from Brazil as well, just so you know, Natalia. So we do have, also people that have been successful in getting funding actually from the alumni group. So we'll be happily connecting them to you. But I think as a general advice, like, like Akash was saying, is like actually just to reach out and kind of like, if you're going to do an educative program, start to drop, while you're in it, send an email and say, hey, by the way, anyone here that can actually help me or recommend me some kind of like funding plan, sounds like a good, good way of like getting as well some tips and things. For sure.
And just Arts Council want to see funding for UK English, Arts Council England want to see work that benefits English audiences, because that's where the money comes from. I don't know about Brazil, but like, for example, the British Council have international funding things. I don't know if the Portuguese Council do that sort of stuff, and like French, all of this colonial, international, Commonwealth, leftover, hangover, trying to like spread culture around the world. There is international funding opportunities. Sometimes I don't know what's specifically available to Brazil, and certain funders actually don't care. So it's, and again, this is just like figuring out and finding that.
Thank you.
And actually, to the moon, if you are 18 to 25, I think Brazil does apply as well. So you can apply for funding with us. Okay, so shall we go and break out our, we had one last question from HR. Round two. HR, if you're still with us.
Yeah, round two. I had another question while you guys were talking. It's quite a loaded question, so let me know if you don't understand it. But say you have a massive project and you need to get other artists involved. What would you say is like the next steps? Would you ask the artists that you want to get involved, ask them what their prices are and include it in your budget and have them named in the application? Or would you try and submit an application and just kind of assume what they should be charging and not have them named? What's the kind of order you would say if you're going to try and do a collaborative approach for funding?
Are you okay? Yeah, shall I go? So my job is, I guess, that negotiation between the two. So I think if it's for a funding application, then I think that you should be speaking to the people that you're, the artists that you want to work with. If, for example, if it's an exhibition, but it's quite difficult because it's both. I would just say it's both, it's both and,
My last tip is like slow down if you can. So sometimes you've got deadlines and things to meet and you can't, and you need to get something in and you don't have time to email the artist. But overall, if this work is a lifelong journey, then slow down, and to keep doing what you're doing in 20 years, slow down, ask people, you start chatting them and you build that relationship with that artist, your project might change and shape and develop because they might bring you an idea that's going to expand what you're even doing. And then they might say, I'm going to reduce my fee now because I really want to do this, So, and as a funder, we want to know that the fee that you've put there is realistic. So you could lie and just make it up. But if I've seen that artist on another grant before, and I know that that's not what they're worth, that doesn't look realistic to me, Sometimes I might not know, and you might get away with it out of luck. But if you have the time, speak to the artist, figure it out, slow it down, and things will come in time.
With this really beautiful word of wisdom, we're going to close this session. But wait, before we close this session, first of all, let me try this. Like, here we go. Like I'm being the branding queen right there. This is it, the To the Moon background that just made its appearance. But basically, we have a lot of grants available and we want to give them to you. So go and check it out online. And meanwhile, we're going to say a massive thank you to Helena and Akash for, giving us such an insightful session. I think we're going to do a round 2 of this session because there is still a lot of questions hanging around there. We're going to have another panel, another conversation going on after this, which is about how to talk about your passion subject in public. So stay with us. In 2 minutes, we're going to speak about that. But meanwhile, I'm going to test this beautiful thing. This is happening. We're all going to disappear into the void of the internet.